Hey, you. Let's get that first podcast out there. And if you haven't heard, Anchor is the easiest way to make that happen. Let me explain. It's free. That's right. It's absolutely free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your PC or the convenience of doing it right from your phone. That's right. You heard me. Right from your phone. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. You can also make money from your podcast. That's right, I said it. You can make money through Anchor with your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's right, guys. Anchor's away. Hey, my gifted ones. It is your host, Melissa Henry Stover, and welcome to the newest episode of Gifted by Design. I know it's been a minute, but I'm back, and I'm just happy to be here, and I just want to thank you all for joining me, and thank you all for supporting this podcast. Today, as I was getting ready to come forward and do this podcast, I was just really thinking about a lot of things, about how I got here and where I'm at now. And I realized that in order for me to move forward, I first had to go back. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have to go back and revisit our past in order to effectively move ahead in our future, because sometimes we have to go back and find that place where we got stuck in order to really understand and to really be able to move on from it. And a lot of times we don't realize that a lot of the decisions that we make as adults, or the people that we choose in our life as adults, actually came from what we experienced in our childhood. Like me, I never really felt the love growing up as a child. I always felt kind of like the black sheep in the family growing up as a child. And I knew there were things that were wrong, but we didn't know names for things when we were younger. We didn't know about dysfunctional families. We didn't know about toxic relationships. We may have not known that if someone touched us or had us touch them, that was wrong, or someone to tell us those things were wrong. So a lot of times, unfortunately, our childhood sets us up for the things that we experience and the choices that we make in our adult life. Um, I was talking to someone the other day, and we were kind of talking about our childhood and, the things that we experienced. And it was like, it's crazy because had we known these things growing up, things would have been so different. But because everything that we experienced in our childhood seemed normal, it became normal to us. And this is what we thought was real. It's what we thought was healthy. It's what we thought that was true, because this is all that we were around and we didn't know any better. So when we got older, whether it was relationships or friends or people, we thought this activity was normal. Well, in actuality, it was all unhealthy. It was all unhealthy. Well, I've been treated this way all my life, so I guess that's the way I'm supposed to be treated. Um, and we, unfortunately, and it's sad, and I'm glad that I have the knowledge I have now. But it took me a really long time to understand that there was nothing wrong with me, that I was normal, that sexually those things were wrong. But I had already had bad relationships. I'd already been promiscuous. I'd already got in trouble. I had already got locked up, and I was labeled as this this bad child, or you know what I'm saying, this rebellious child, and it wasn't true. But I had to live, and I had to learn, and I had to educate myself, and I had to talk to other people that experienced the same things to realize that none of those things were true. And I had to go back to those places, and I had to heal from those places. And a lot of times, what people want to do is they want to forget about it, or they want to sweep it under the rug. And you'll never effectively heal by doing that. You have to go back, you have to dig those things up, and you have to deal with them. Sometimes that's having hard conversations with people. And that is where you'll meet a lot of your negativity, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to bring it back up. They want you to let it sit there. But if you let it sit there, it not only affects you, it affects your children, which it has done for me. And I wish that I would have known a lot of things sooner. But unfortunately, I didn't. And then there's nothing that I can do about that now but learn from it and become a better person. So when you're doing this healing, you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for generations to come. You can break some of these generational things that have been going through your family for years because no one ever knew, or no one ever wanted to talk about it, or no one ever wanted to admit that certain things happen. And unfortunately, this happens so much. And there are so many people out here who are feeling this way, who were made to feel that there was something wrong with them, who were made to feel that, they were the ones that were wrong. And you weren't. You're special. You're not a black sheep. You're not a bad child. You're not a rebellious child. You were different. And God made you different. Actually, He made you normal, which unfortunately is the minority, because most people do live in the denial or the dysfunction. And then if you don't choose to live in that denial or dysfunction, then that's when you're considered not normal. And I lived most of my life feeling not normal, or not accepted, or pushed aside, or made to look like something that I wasn't, because I didn't choose to live in that dysfunction. Once I started educating myself, once I started finding out that there were words like toxic, narcissistic, I understood a lot of things better, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things. And as I was talking to one of my childhood friends, it's crazy because they lived such a similar life, but we didn't know any better. We didn't know any better. We were children. But when I went back to do the hard work, I want you to understand, everybody's not going to be on board to do this work with you. Everybody is not going to be excited to help you fix this, because this is how it's been, and they're comfortable leaving it that way. They don't want to take the bandages off. They want to keep things just the way they are, and you are going to be frowned upon, because now you're wanting to uncover this stuff that has been sitting for so long. But once you do the work, once you realize and you find out the information that you need to know for yourself, and you choose healing, and you choose to move forward, all you can do is try to make things right. You can't force anyone to want to do it because you're doing it. So I need you to understand, it's okay if everybody doesn't want to do it. It's okay if everybody doesn't see it the same way that you see it. Just understand that you may lose some people in the process of your healing, because you're no longer blind. You're educated, and you're armed with knowledge. And so a lot of people are not going to like that. But in order for you to grow, you have to go back to these places and you have to acknowledge the hurt and you have to acknowledge the pain. And you don't have to turn it into a blame game. You don't have to turn it into an all-out war. If that's something that someone doesn't want to go along with you on, then you make your peace and you choose your peace. And after you choose your peace, then you set boundaries. Because boundaries are very healthy. And sometimes you have to choose that in order to move on in this healthy state. Because now you understand that there is dysfunction. And do I allow this to keep coming into my life, or do I set boundaries because now I want peace in my life? I chose peace. Yes, I lost people in the process. I absolutely did. But once you've been educated and once your eyes are open, it's really no going back, because you will no longer tolerate the treatment. You'll no longer feel that you have to prove yourself to anyone. You'll no longer feel that need to please everyone, because now you see things differently. And it was through a lot of prayer, a lot of tears, a lot of hurt that I realized that I was going to lose people in the process of finding myself. And so I want you guys to know today that you have to start with yourself, because there's no way that you can help anyone else until you help yourself. You can't heal anyone else until you heal yourself. So as much as everyone out here wants to help, I realized that until I help myself, I would be of no use to anyone else. And I've been through a lot of things. And it started in my childhood. And then I was promiscuous. And then I was in jail. And then I was in 2 abusive relationships. And then I had to bury my 10-year-old daughter. And then I had to fight with my family. And then I had issues with my children. And on some of that, I had to take responsibility because I was already broken. And I was trying to take care of people and to live broken. And I wish I knew better. I wish I knew then what I know now, and maybe things could be different. But what I realize now, a broken person can't fix anyone. A broken person will bleed on other people. And I had to take accountability and say something's not right. But in order for me to do that, I had to go back. I had to go back and I had to dig up some things. Some things, yes, they were other people's fault. And then it got to a point that some things were my fault because I allowed it. But in that process, I had to sift through all of it. I had to make sure that I got the ugly parts. And these things just don't affect you. They affect your children. And now I have to understand, now that I've fixed myself, the areas that I was broken. And then hopefully one day those things can be repaired. But it had to start with me going back. And so I want you to really understand what I'm saying. You have to do the work. The process is not easy. The process hurts. But is it worth it? It absolutely is. Because I see everything different now. I know my worth. I know who I am. I know that I'm a survivor. I know that I'm special. I know I'm not what people said I was, or I'm not what somebody called me, or I'm not what somebody labeled me as, because they had their own brokenness that they were dealing with, and they put that on me. And I can't carry their baggage. But what I can do is become a better version of myself for myself, not just for me, but my children and my grandchildren. I can say, yes, I was a mess. I was broken. I was all of those things. I own that. And I stand in that truth. But I'd rather stand in my ugly truth and fix me now than for it to affect my family in the future. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. But you can do it. Don't ever let anybody tell you your worth. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not good enough or you'll never be anything or you won't ever amount to anything. That's their feelings, maybe even about themselves. But understand who you are and love yourself enough to know that you are better than that. I love you guys. Do the work, set the boundaries, own your truth, work on it every day. There's more to come. Know that you are gifted by design and you are designed to be gifted. Join me on my next episode. But until then, I want you to go out there and find your gift. My name's Melissa Henry Stover. Stay gifted.